Good morning, happy people. I hope you're having just a brilliant day today, and I hope that day continues for the rest of the day, and I hope that tomorrow's even better, and the next day's even better than that. Today we're taking a look at Kim Newman's The Big Fish. Now, The Big Fish I first read in the Cthulhu 2000 collection that I picked up when I was in college, and I was taking a deep dive into the Cthulhu Mythos. I also own a copy in my Shadows over Innsmouth collection, both of them by Del Rey. So there you are. I'll let you have it to it. It's about 25 pages or so in my collection. I'm going to be giving it about 7.5, maybe 7.2 out of a 10, and since I don't like to give those, I'll round it up to an 8, so I'll give it more of an 8 out of 10 rating. But it's pretty good, but it's a little bit less than that, but it's really strong. So this is a very unusual setting. Basically, it's a film noir in short story form in the Cthulhu Mythos. Detective stories that were set, particularly those in sort of gangster sort of settings, were ones that were very, very common during the pulp era. Detectives are obviously a big thing during the pulp era. There were lots of magazines that were dedicated to giving you film noir style short stories, novellas, and even novels that were spread across multiple issues of magazines during the pulp era that were serialized. So you had a lot of that happening in the pulp era, and so what's happening here is that Kim Newman is combining that genre with the Cthulhu Mythos. It's also a sequel to Shadow over Innsmouth, which is pretty good too. It's my favorite Cthulhu Mythos short story by H.P. Lovecraft. And I'm sure that there are people that are watching this who are deep into mythology who might think that's probably one of their favorites too. I'm also rather fond of The Color of the Space and by Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu proper, the Dunwich Witch Horror, and a couple of others here and there. But I really enjoy this short story by Kim Newman. It definitely feels like it's written during the World War II. It's set in Bay City in California on the West Coast, and it has a lot of California West Coast things. Now, Kim Newman, if I remember correctly, is from he's from the UK. He's got famous for writing some vampire stuff, so he's in the horror genre. I actually have read a novel by Kim Newman called Life's Lottery, which I think is pretty good. It's basically an adult choose your own adventure short story where you are choosing the aspects of fate versus chance and these sorts of things. It definitely feels more speculative fiction. It's not hard science fiction, it's not hard fantasy or hard horror, but it feels more speculative fiction than general fiction. But it's definitely, I'm going to give you a shout out here for Life's a Lottery too, by Kim Newman. Just briefly, he is a very strong author in terms of that. That's the only novel that I've read by Kim Newman, and a choose your own adventure novel, since you're not reading it from beginning to end. This is obviously a quicker read than most sort of novels out there, so you don't have to commit as much time to it. In terms of Kim time, probably spent a little over an hour, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes, maybe an hour and 15, reading this short story, because it's about 25 pages, and it's dense, and my type of it was anyway. I'll link you in below to the Cthulhu 2000 collection, which is where I first owned this, in case you're interested in following along with me in this 7 plus 8 minus short story by the writer Kim Newman, and set in the Cthulhu Myth. Now, I'll let you know right up front, he feels like he did a lot of research into what it was like to live in America during this time. There's a lot of patriotism because we've just been attacked by the Japanese in Pearl Harbor, and there's a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment in the population during this time because we've just been attacked. We're at war with them. And also there's this othering of people when you're at war with them. You're not friendly, you're not police, you're not polite rather. You're not friendly, you're not, there's definitely an othering of your opponent during this time. And there was a big othering of the Japanese during this time. And there are a couple of song titles. For example, to be specific, it's my specific because it rhymes. There's a couple more that are a little more anti-Japanese. And there's one or two lines in here about anti-Japanese fervor during this time, which was heightened on the West Coast where Japanese people were living, and it was felt that it could be attacked by the Japanese at any given point in time. And clearly Kim Newman has done his research on that, so it feels like it's of its time. It definitely has that anti-Japanese sentiment to it. But again, just so you aware, this is a Generation 4 short story, but in the Cthulhu Mythos, which means it's written in my language from 1980 to current somewhere in there. So it's a more recent version of it, but I don't think this would be written today and after. But I do enjoy that it definitely has that. But I also want to let you know, going in as a modern 2020, 2021, 2022 reader, just so you're aware, so you see your eyes wide open. So if in case you're like, after hearing about that, it's probably not my thing, then that's fine. There's no judgment here. And if after like, it's very well done, it's very well fleshed out. The world definitely lives. It combines these two genres very nicely, and the horror genre of the Cthulhu Mythos, as well as and reading the sequel to Shadow Over Innsmouth, as well as the film noir genre and style of storytelling. Then definitely you're gonna want to check it out, because he does a very good job with it and living, and the details are very fleshed out. He's definitely done his research. And it shows. So, but I'll leave that to you as the reader. Everybody's different. There's no judgment here one way or the other. Do what you want to do. But I do like the story. It's well written. It's well fleshed out and such. Basically, the basic core of the Big Fish, which I've now read probably 3 or 4 times, and I've enjoyed every single time I've read it. I just finished it again yesterday for the 3rd or 4th time. I really do enjoy this short story. It's definitely well done by our writer. And basically the core idea is that our key investigator, who's not doing as much work now that we're in World War II, since people aren't as interested in tracking down, their cheating wife or husband, they're not as interested in finding minor items and finding out what happened to him. So him as a PI is not as employed. So it's recent into the war. He's approached by a screen legend named Janie Fields, who's a big character in Silver Screens, and she's in the serials too. Serials during this time were basically an early version of a television show. The idea is that you go to the theater, you watch this 15-20 minute episode that would be between movies, and you would watch these, and they were sequential, and they built off of each other, and they told a story over time, and they might be 10 parts, 15 parts, 18 parts, 12 parts, right? Short stories that you would go see over and over and over again, and they ended with something that became what were called cliffhangers. That's where we get the term cliffhanger, because characters would literally be, and then they would begin, and they would escape what would seem like actual death from things. And these serials are a different genre than televisions, they're a different genre than movies, and they dominated. And there were a reason a lot of people would go and watch movies during this era. And a movie was much more of a communal experience during this time, too. You would basically go with your community, your family would go. You'd be there for hours. You would show up. You would have some cartoons for the family that were done by people like Walt Disney. You would have newsreels that you would watch. You would watch a serial, a movie, an intermission. Then you would have more of the shorts, like newsreels. You would have trailers for future videos, not as much as you might think. You would have another serial, and then you would have a B movie, which was shorter, and then you would go home. So you might start at like noon and finish at like 5, or something like that. And everybody in the family sort of went, and everybody in the community would sort of go, and then for the rest of the week, they would talk about the A movie, the B movie, the serials that had shown that week, the news reels that you had seen, and such. This was sort of the movie experience during that time. And so Kim Newman has definitely done his research on this, and talking about this female actor who's very popular for playing a very powerful character. A couple of serials. So he definitely has done his research on what movie serials are, and that sort of a thing, and what the movie watching experience was like during this era. And this person hires him to find her missing lover. And he's been missing now for a couple months. And he is not a good person. He's invested in gambling. He has an offshore boat where locals from Bay City will go and gamble, and they'll do a lot of, nasty stuff. And this will send him on a quest to start finding out about the esoteric order of Dagon, which is initially listed by H.P. Lovecraft as a church in Innsmouth, and Shadow over Innsmouth. He'll run into deep ones. He'll run in, also introduced in that novella. He'll run into an offshore place, just like Shadow over Innsmouth, and so on and so forth. But different things will happen. And this then happens in the story by Lovecraft, Shadow over Innsmouth. This definitely feels, since Shadow over Innsmouth was set contemporaneously in the late 20s, so it would have been done after World War I, and now you're having a sequel in World War II. It would have been done in the late 20s. Or like 1930, and now this is happening like 1945, or not. Well, it's actually after Pearl Harbor, so it's later. So it would have been before 45, but you get the idea. This is happening, contemporaneously, so it's not that long in the future when this is happening. In the history of the Cthulhu Mythos, this is definitely a very strong Cthulhu Mythos story, and that is Kim Newman has added, and I love it a lot. I'm giving it overall an 8- or an 8 super plus. I'm sorry, 7 super plus. I really enjoyed this short story. So I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read The Big Fish by Kim Newman? What did you think of it? Did you agree or disagree with my take in any way or shape or form? If so, I would be more than happy to engage you with it further in the comments below, whatever you thought about it, whether you thought it was better or worse, or whether you've read it or what you thought about it, or if you want to talk about spoilers, since I try to keep my reviews spoiler free. I would be happy to engage you with it further in the comments below, whatever you would like to talk about. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow, like this one in fantasy, science. It's a little bit of fantasy, but more horror, in fantasy, horror, and science fiction. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. Thanks again, and have a great day.